of sodium.
That's a lot of sodium. So this is just 1 teaspoon or less. You could use less. And then,
because I've got high blood pressure in my family, I'm always asking, hey, what else could you do other than that salt?
Right. So if you want to take salt out completely, you could, if you want to go on Amazon and buy this, get some lactic acid, which is a sour flavoring made from sugar beets. This one is Druid's Grove brand. You could also try dehydrated lime, maybe a teaspoon, half of a teaspoon of dehydrated lime, because it kind of lights up those same taste buds that salt does. But in this case, that's not a lot of salt. It's just a little tiny bit of salt compared to the cheese block that we're trying to replace. All right. And, a half a cup of nutritional yeast, of course, because that always makes everything taste nice and cheesy. All right. And I'm using this kind, Bragg's nutritional yeast. Okay. And remember, that's not baker's yeast, it's not brewer's yeast, it is nutritional yeast. Chipotle pepper powder. Okay, so I'm sure I have chipotle pepper powder somewhere, but you could also instead just use chipotle flavored Tabasco. So I have some chipotle flavored Tabasco, and if you have chipotle pepper powder, use maybe 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon, and in this case I'm just going to put a few squirts of it in there. Okay, there we go. And then we'll get this started. Scrape it down just to make sure all the stuff got in there. Looks pretty good. It's very orange, which is good. Okay. Then we'll pour it out. Into a bowl. Okay, so we have the tomatoes all drained, and we're just adding them back in now. There we go. Okay, we'll just stir them around in there. You could also add in, at this point, if you would like, some peppers. That would be really good. They could be raw or sauteed peppers and onions. It could be really nice in there. Maybe some chopped cilantro or some chopped red onion. There's all kinds of stuff you could put in there. I kind of like it just like this because it's more like the traditional cheese dip that people serve at parties.
Yeah, I think maybe leave it plain if it's got other dishes around it.
Right.
But if this is the only thing you're having, you might color it up a little bit. Put in some celery.
I don't think I would add celery.
Chopped up celery.
You want to add celery to everything. No, I would not do celery in here, but things like maybe peppers, onions, cilantro, that kind of thing. No, I wouldn't do celery. You put celery on everything. All right, get a chip. Oh, taste it. It's ready. Oh, I get some too. Yum. Okay.
That's great.
I think it could be even more spicy, really.
Oh, yeah.
So you could add some cayenne pepper to it. The other thing is if you're bringing it to a party, you might want to put it in a little crock pot and to keep it warm, because it's really good when it's warm. So
some chopped jalapeno would be really good in there.
Ooh, yeah. That would be very good.
Along with some celery.
Not everything needs celery. So
this is a great dip. All we need now is a party or a game.
There we go. We got a Super Bowl.
Coming up.
Super Bowl. Yep. Perfect for the Super Bowl. All right. Thanks for watching. I hope you do try this at home.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for coming out. Let's open with a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we just thank you so much for this time and this opportunity, Lord God. We thank you for what we are learning of how to be better stewards of our bodies and how to take care of them so that they will bring honor and glory to you, Lord God. Father, we thank you for our teachers tonight, Lord God. We thank you for their time and their diligence as they have begun to teach us and show us the things that you have already laid out, Father. So, Father, we thank you and we give you honor and we give you praise and we give you glory. And we ask you to bless the food that we will be eating and make it nourishing to our bodies and our bodies a continuous service to you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Has anybody not had the Rotel dip? I think we need 2 up here. I know. Everybody else has had some of the Rotel dip, Rotel cheese dip. Well, see what you think. See how real you think it is. So we're showing up here the video of how to make this cheese dip that you all had. It's on our YouTube channel. You remember you can get to that by going to YouTube and just searching Strickland's and then the ampersand. That's that figure 8 looking thing that means and then WFPB, our channel will come up. And it's got playlists on it. This is under the snacks playlist. She uses, she'll come up here soon.
Testing. Yep. Oh, it's on. Maybe it got turned down. Yeah. Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Can you hear me? Yeah, I've got it right here. Oh, where did it go? Should be right. Yeah, there it is. Success stories at the beginning. Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. Is that better? Okay.
Maybe muted.
Did I mute myself accidentally? Check 1, 2. Check 1, 2. I can talk pretty loud, but okay. How's everybody doing this week? Cool. Is anybody new this week who wasn't here last week? Trey, I forgot. We got to get him you got to sign a release form. Did you sign one of the release forms? Okay, you're good. Okay. So I want to hear how everybody did this past week. Do we have any really cool success stories? Anybody?
All right, here we go.
You did? Yay!
Oh, let's hear it.
Yay! Some testimonies for mine. I did the Yes You Can black bean chili, but mine is called Oh My Gosh black bean chili. I've had 4 people at church to taste it Sunday, and 2 of them are here, and I let them testify.
Great. Like, I thought it was great. He added something that was a little bit hotter, but it had a little kick to it.
Okay. So, yes, I had to put my own twist on it.
That's fine.
Okay. So, I did not do the optional. So, what I added was some onions, minced garlic, tomatoes, and cayenne pepper.
Oh, cool. Okay, absolutely. I mean, the way I think about it is play with your food. Yes.
I don't know. I haven't been brave enough to modify any of Carolyn's recipes.
That's not my recipe. That's a Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine recipe. But what I think about the Physicians Committee recipes is that sometimes they're kind of bland, and so they try to make things. Now, obviously, the cheese dip is not bland. That's not PCRM's recipe. That's my recipe. So, yes, but PCRM's recipes can be a little bit bland. So if you want to add hot sauce or you want to add chili powder or you want to add whatever, I mean, absolutely feel free to do that. Play with your food. And
so anybody else want to give a success story?
Yeah, I want to hear some more success stories. Where's the young lady who was here last
week
who was going to talk tonight?
I modified the Green Monster smoothie with kale. It was kind of gritty, but I'm sure my organs are helpful. We're glad.
Your microbiome is thanking
Yes.
you. Yes.
And sauteed some spinach. I was a little bit skeptical that I could match you by not putting in olive oil, but what'd you say? You did good. Okay, all right. But it was okay. And it pleasantly surprised my bride, so that was good.
Yay! Yeah, absolutely. Switch out baby kale for spinach anytime. Yeah.
I find myself, as I'm planning for groceries for the week, asking myself, am I eating the rainbow? And I was like, oh, look at me, I'm in the store and I'm doing it. Like, oh, so that was like, type of moment. But I actually made some strawberry chai seed jam this week, and it was pretty good. So I plan on experimenting some more with that.
Cool. That's so exciting.
That sounds great. Here you go.
I made the sunrise biscuits. I think that's what
The
they were
sunrise
called.
biscuits, the
Yes,
sweet
yes.
potato biscuits.
I
yeah.
did. I made them at work and shared, and
Oh,
everybody,
good.
I'm not gonna say everybody, most folks enjoyed it. I really did.
Aren't they good? They're just so good. I gave the recipe to my mother, and she's been making them too. She loves them. So anytime I can teach my mom how to do something, it's kind of amazing because she's a really good cook. So she makes the Yes You Can black bean chili all the time too, and brings it to church functions and things. So loves it. Who else has a success story? Anybody want to share? How you doing? Still
Anybody
doing
have
good?
some challenges they want to share that they overcame,
what
or
was difficult this
still
week?
trying to figure out how to overcome them?
No, we're going to talk a lot tonight about challenges and about specifically how to keep eating this way for the long term, not just for a 90-day Daniel fast, but how to keep going for, what are we on, 13, how long have we been doing this?
2009.
It'll be 14 years this year. Woo, yeah. So the Daniel fast for 14 years. The Daily Dozen.
Hey,
It's
great.
hard. I know. I told you that if you eat all
so
the
that-
stuff that tells you to eat, you're going to be so full you can't walk. But
That's a big thing in trying to guide people down this path, is try to get really emphasize eating the fruits, vegetables, grains, beans. Emphasize that, have more, commit to having a certain number of servings with each meal or whatever, and they'll kind of naturally crowd out the bad things.
right. So I like that app because if everybody remembers from last week, what we're talking about is the app called Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen. So instead of thinking about, oh, I can't have this and I can't have that, what that app does is it tells you, eat this, eat that, do have this, do have that, instead of don't eat this. And so that, I think that's, when you think about it in a positive way, that's a better way to look at it. Think about, what good am I doing for myself today? What healthy thing am I putting in my body, instead of, oh, I can't have this and I can't have that, and you feel like you've been punished because you can't have something. Instead, think about, what are all the good things, and then checking off boxes and then it's really hard to eat all the stuff he says. Like, he wants you to eat at least one serving of cruciferous vegetables, which, remember, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, collards, all those things that start smelling like sulfur when you cook them for a really long time. So cruciferous vegetables, plus 3 other vegetables, plus however many fruits and however many grains and however many, like 3 servings of beans a day. I mean, it's a lot. But if you keep in mind, a glass of soy milk or some tofu actually counts as a serving of beans because it's made of a bean. It's made from soy. So you could have a tofu scramble for breakfast that counts as a bean, because it's made out of soy beans. They're beans, so that counts. So, but still, 3 servings of beans in a day is hard to do.
So who here has been eating totally plant-based for more than like 2 or 3 days now? Who's been totally plant-based the longest? I mean, not people that came in plant-based, but just started here.
Charlotte.
So what?
Charlotte
you're a couple
wins.
decades or something? Yeah, but people
Charlotte
that
wins.
the people that start at the new year were eating bad food and got on board. Since the fast?
It's a Daniel fast.
Yeah.
It's
Since
the 2nd
y'all
of
been going
January.
since the 2nd of January? Who's been going since the 2nd of January?
Woo! The third.
And
yeah,
y'all haven't set a foot wrong. Fruits, vegetables.
Woo! That's awesome. That's awesome.
So look,
Had to
y'all
get
have
rid
had
of
a
it.
good amount of time. Who's starting to notice a change in what foods you want? What you want has really changed? Yeah, that's kind of a weird thing when you start craving fiber. I get cravings. I get cravings for
Apples,
fiber, like an all brand. Yeah, like we've got this brand nuggets thing from Whole Foods.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I'm like, I want some of that. And it's the same craving I used to have for a burger or for cheese. It's kind of funny when that craving goes a different direction.
I find myself craving apples and, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Let me let y'all hear what he had to say.
I was looking at a poster of McDonald's with the cheeseburger, the fries, the nuggets, the drinks, and everything, and I looked at it and I paused for a minute. I'm like, I want an apple. I actually wanted an apple.
Thank you.
Now, have any of y'all gotten to the point when you see the meat, cheese, dairy, eggs, or like you see a billboard with McDonald's, or that it just doesn't look like food anymore?
Yeah.
That's weird, isn't it? But look, the reason I wanted to say that kind of thing is because it really does happen fairly fast. I mean, the big picture of an 80 or 90 year lifespan. You get on this path and you stay on it just for a few months, and the things you crave, the things you want, really change. It's probably because the mix of bacteria in your gut change. Somebody's raising their hands, wanting to say something.
Yep.
So I was doing Ezekiel bread, sometimes with peanut butter, and one day I thought I was craving peanut butter and jelly because that's my favorite sandwich. So I put some strawberry jam on it, and it was too sweet. It was terrible. I didn't like the jam anymore.
It was too sweet to you since you haven't had a lot of sugar? Yeah, exactly. Fruit has natural sugars in it that are sweet enough. So if you get rid of all those refined sugars, then after a few weeks, all of a sudden, artificially sweetened things are just way too sweet. That happened to me when I went to college because my grandfather lived with us when I was in high school and he had high blood pressure. So we had to start cooking everything without any salt. And then I went off to college and started eating in the cafeteria, and I couldn't eat anything. Everything was so salty. I finally had to move out of the dorm into my own apartment so I could cook for myself because I just couldn't stand how much salt was in everything. And still, like eating at restaurants tastes a little too salty to me most of the time. So when you get rid of the artificial level of sweetness and the artificial level of salt, it can really it can change your taste buds, and all of a sudden things are too sweet and too salty. So, okay, so we're going to cook some things.
And they can be wonderfully sweet, too. I swear I get high on watermelon now. I mean, it's just so sweet.
And peaches.
It's because I'm not drinking the sodas anymore. And, it used to be watermelon was always kind of bland.
Right.
And now, I think I was wanting to say it when somebody brought up sweet a couple weeks ago, but I think everything's relative, and you get away from the overly sweetened stuff, and then the fruits. Oh my gosh, they just start exploding with flavor, and they're just a rush to eat them.
That's very
fun.
true. So speaking of sweets, we have a smoothie that we're doing tonight that is my favorite smoothie. It's called the Chocolate Cherry Nirvana Smoothie, and it has no sugar in it. So there's cocoa powder, but there's frozen cherries, which are very sweet. There's a banana, which is naturally sweet. And then there's soy milk, and it's just cocoa powder, cherries, banana, soy milk. That's it. And it's delicious, absolutely delicious. And then we have a Mongolian stir fry, which has mushrooms in it. And I'm going to admit to you my dark, dirty little secret of I don't like mushrooms. But I know I'm a bad vegan, but I try. I really do try.
She has come a long way.
I have come a long way. I eat olives now. I used to hate mushrooms and olives, and now I like olives. I'm okay with them. And some kinds of mushrooms are better than others. I'm getting there. And I really think that it's because when I was little, my mother, every time she cooked, bless her heart, she's a great cook, but when it came to mushrooms, she bought canned. And the difference between like a canned peach and a fresh peach. There is no comparison. A fresh peach is delicious and crunchy and sweet, and then a canned peach is like you're in a nursing home. It's like not. It doesn't taste as good. It's just not as good as a fresh peach. And I think mushrooms, because she made it all the time that way, it got to the point where I was like, ugh, I cannot deal. They were slimy and icky, and I just couldn't deal with them. So that got in my head. So I tried. I tried. So we did, if you go on Facebook to Meatless Monday Montgomery, the Facebook page, last Monday night we made crab cakes out of lion's mane mushrooms. And it's wild how much they really looked and tasted like crab cakes, especially when I crushed up some seaweed snacks and put it in, because it gave it that sort of fishy flavor. And so, but when you pull lion's mane mushrooms apart, it looks like lump crab meat. It was incredible. And then we used a flax egg instead of a regular egg to hold it together. So 1 tablespoon of ground flax seed, 3 tablespoons of water makes a flax egg. And so you can use a flax egg in any baking you do. I wouldn't make scrambled eggs out of it, but you can use it in cookies, cakes, whatever. So is it just not working?
Yeah, he's going to figure it out.
Okay. It's stuck. There we go. Thank you. All right. So we did crab cakes. You can watch that on Meatless Monday Montgomery on Facebook. If you go to that page and just look at our most recent video, that's the one we did. And it was really good with the remoulade sauce. It was fabulous. So, and we fried them in a tiny, tiny bit of spray oil. Because remember, we looked at a can of oil and how many servings there were in it. What was it, 558 or something ridiculous? And so we just did a little spritz of oil so it didn't stick to the pan. But I think probably you could also air fry them after they've, solidified up a little bit in the pan, and then put them in the air fryer and get them crispy. They were pretty good. And they were mushrooms. I just had to forget it was mushrooms, and it was good. It's just this mental thing with me. I know. It's like, ugh, fungus. All right. I can't deal with it. So we're making mushrooms tonight. Not my favorite, but I deal with it. Okay. So what we're using tonight is portobello mushrooms. And so we have portobello mushrooms that are already sliced up, 2 portobello mushroom caps. And I have some hoisin sauce. And we're using just a package of already cut up stir-fried vegetables. So you don't even have to cut it. This is how fast this is. You don't even have to cut it up yourself. You can just buy already cut up ones like Publix, Walmart. A lot of places will sell, I think it's a 14-ounce bag of stir-fried vegetables. That's it. So, and then, here, open that for me. I'll let you open it. Thank you. And then we have garlic and ginger. And did everybody get some of the cheese dip? Does anybody not get any? Okay. Or who wanted it? I know it was a little bit spicy, but not terrible. Okay. So we have... you open the bag. I have a knife. You can just slice it open with a knife. All right. So we have ginger and we have garlic. So remember last week we did a lot of things with ginger. Was that last week that we did all the ginger things? Okay. Because ginger is so good for your digestion. So we have 3 cloves of garlic already minced. And yes, you can open it. So we'll go ahead and cook this. And then our wonderful cooking team over there has already made brown rice for us. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the brown rice. You have the recipe. It's going to be a little bit different than how you might prepare brown rice according to the package. So just a little word about brown rice. There is some concern with rice in general, all kinds of rice, white rice, brown rice, whatever, that rice can contain arsenic. But it's it's a very small amount, and the reason is because rice is grown in paddies, basically, where it's very moist, and they keep it very, very, very wet. And rice plants are super, super good at soaking up arsenic from the ground. In fact, they're starting to figure out one of the best ways to get arsenic out of the ground is to plant rice and then just destroy it after it grows to suck all the arsenic out of the ground. So it's an interesting idea, but so there are certain types of rice that are going to be higher in arsenic than others, but mostly organic brown rices shouldn't have as much, and there are certain ways that you can deal with it to decrease the level of arsenic. So right now the recommendation from Physicians Committee and a lot of other doctors in the plant-based world is rinse your rice really, really well. So put it in a colander, a fine mesh colander, and just run water over it until it doesn't have that residue coming off of it. So you see when you start pouring water over rice, it gets like that whitish residue coming off. Just keep rinsing it until that stops. Then cook it, but cook it in more water than you think you need. So the recipe usually says like 1 cup of rice to 2 cups of water. Instead, cook it more like pasta, where you have 1 cup of rice to a bunch of water. So in this specific recipe you have, it says 1 cup of rice to 4 cups of water, meaning it's not going to soak up all of the water at the end, and you're going to have to drain some off. So I'm not going to demonstrate that because it would take a really long time, because it's like 45 minutes to cook rice, and we're not going to sit here watching rice cook for 45 minutes. So our wonderful cooking team, wave your hands, Charlotte and Susan, I don't know where Janice went, have already made rice, and so we've got it already made, and they made it, according to this recipe. So you're going to make it with more water than you need, cook it for, the allotted time, and then drain it. And then you can fluff it up with a fork, and it'll be the fluffiest rice you've ever had. It's delicious. It comes out actually a lot better. So sometimes I do it in my Instant Pot because it's 22 minutes and it's done, but usually I rinse it really, really well first before I do that. Also, the other recommendation is that you don't want to eat any kind of rice more than 2 or 3 times a week because of that possibility that there's arsenic in it. But if you stick with brown rice that's organic, grown in California, that's probably the lowest levels of arsenic that you're going to find in any rice. So go with organic. That helps because we know there's not as much stuff in the soil. And then brown rice because it has more fiber, right? Because white rice has had the outer endosperm stripped off of it, and so that's where all that fiber went. So we like fiber, so we're going to make sure we get brown rice. White rice won't kill you. I mean, people in Asian countries have been eating white rice for thousands of years, and they have less diabetes, heart disease, cancer, high blood pressure than we do. So white rice is not a problem, but brown rice is probably preferable. But if you go out to dinner and all they offer is white rice where you go, and you're getting like a tofu vegetable stir fry, have white rice. It's not going to hurt you, but it doesn't cause diabetes. It doesn't cause cancer. It's not a problem, but brown rice is probably a little better.
So she mentioned an Instant Pot, and I saw that our Rotel Dip video uses an Instant Pot. Does everybody know what an Instant Pot is, what that's all about?
A pressure cooker. Yeah, okay. A lot of people have Instant Pots now. They're kind of popular, so they're a lot of fun, and they're not as scary.
They're like $50 at Walmart, right?
Yeah, they're not expensive, and they're coming way down. They used to be a lot more. Can you open that? Thank you. Oh, you're going to be my mic stand. Cool. Okay, I have a mic stand. That's neat. Okay, so we're going to start with. Hang on, I got to go this way. Oh, you found scissors. Cool. Okay, so we have some water or broth. I need that thing of water right there. That thing of water. That water. Okay. So we're going to saute in water instead of oil, right? Because oil has a lot of fat, but not a lot of nutrients. And so we're going to start with water and just a little bit and let that start heating up in this big wok right here. All right, I'm just going to do a little bit. And then just add water as you need it. So if it starts sticking, just add a little more water or a vegetable broth. That's fine too.
My guess would be that's like 3 tablespoons.
Maybe 2. So, and hopefully this will heat up. I don't know. Yeah. Okay, so like I said, on the recipe, and you've all got the recipes, it's 3 cloves of minced garlic, a tablespoon of minced fresh ginger, because ginger is super good for you and delicious, a pinch of red pepper flakes, 3 green onions, and then you're going to split it up. So you take the white part separately and the green part at the top for the garnish. Okay, so we use the white part while we're stir frying. And then 2 portobello mushroom caps, which we've already sliced up, and that frozen bag of Asian stir-fried vegetables, some hoisin sauce. Okay, hoisin is a traditional Asian sauce. It is delicious, and just a little bit goes a long way. It has a lot of flavor to it, so we're just using a little bit, but it is good.
So when you all saw me looking at this bag of vegetables, I was just curious what, we talked about it last time. I was looking at the number of milligrams of sodium compared to the number of calories. And it's interesting to me, a serving of this has 30 milligrams of sodium and it's got 30 calories. So it's, just these fresh vegetables, they're just kind of spot on for what you're looking for. Trying to have the milligrams of sodium less than the total calories. Hoisin sauce is going to be higher than that.
Probably a little bit. Okay, and also on the recipe it calls for soy sauce. You could use low sodium soy sauce, but you can also use, remember, liquid aminos, because we've used them before. So just go right to the source of the amino acids, because remember, when you eat meat, you don't take the protein out and just stick it on your muscles. So your body breaks it down into the amino acids and then builds its own protein to make more muscle. So just go right to the amino acids. And it tastes just like soy sauce. It's a little lower in sodium, and it doesn't have soy, and it's gluten-free. So for those of you who care about that. Okay.
So for the hoisin sauce, it's got 90 calories per serving and 1,090 milligrams of sodium.
That's why we're using a tiny little bit. Just a tiny little bit.
Yeah.
Okay.
You'll find a lot of the sauces and things like that you're used to thinking you really like them. When you learn more about it, it's like, oh, I guess what I really like is salt. Ketchup is red liquid salt. Mustard is yellow liquid salt.
Right. Okay, so we're putting in the garlic, the ginger. Well, and it's the conversation we were having earlier. A few of us here were talking about meat and the fact that what we like about meat isn't really the meat, it's the seasonings. Because it's not like you take a piece of beef and boil it and eat it. It's all the seasonings that you put on it that are good. All right, so we've added the garlic, the ginger, the white parts of the green onion, which I sliced in like little one-inch little sticks. And then where did my pepper go? There it is. Okay, and then just a pinch. I'm all about spicy tonight, aren't I, with the cheese dip and but we're using just a little bit of crushed red pepper. So it's just a pinch of crushed red pepper. And we'll let that cook for just a minute. And it's up as high as it goes, so hopefully it'll cook a little more. I can smell it already. Can you guys smell that? And it smells amazing. It smells so good. Anytime you cook garlic and ginger, the smell is fabulous. Oh, my goodness. All right. So we're letting that cook for just a few minutes. And while it's cooking, I'm going to make the little sauce that goes on it. So we have a little bowl, and I'm going to add a 4th cup of cold water, that little bit of hoisin sauce, the low sodium soy sauce, or the liquid aminos, and some cornstarch. Oh, in fact, I have a container with cornstarch. Here it is. We'll just do it right in here. So this already has 2 teaspoons of cornstarch in it. So you could also, if you don't want to use cornstarch, you can use potato starch, arrowroot powder, any of the starches. Okay, so there's other types of starch besides cornstarch. There's potato starch. Arrowroot is a really good one. Tapioca starch is another one. So anything starchy will make it thick. So we want to thicken up our sauce. So let's see, where'd my 4th cup measure go? So I'm going to go ahead and make the sauce while that's cooking.
We make glop cheese on our YouTube channel. She doesn't like the name. I named it. But we use tapioca starch, and it comes out stringy.
I don't like the name because it doesn't sound very appetizing, like glop cheese. Yum.
It is good.
It is really good, but yeah, give me a glop of that. That sounds fabulous. Sorry, that just doesn't sound appetizing, but glop. Okay, so we have a tablespoon of hoisin sauce. We've got the 4th cup of cold water, hoisin, not soy sauce, liquid aminos, and the, oh, this has a little lid on it in there. Hold on, if I can get that open. With gloves. Everything is harder with gloves. Oh my goodness. This is why my daughter uses her teeth when she opens things, which is a really bad idea. So, okay, let's see if you can open that. Okay, so we'll do the hoisin sauce. Just a little bit. It's 1 tablespoon. Got a tablespoon measure right here. Come here, you. There we go. All right, 1 tablespoon. There we go. Okay, and then somebody tell me on the recipe how many tablespoons of the soy sauce? 1 to 2. 1 to 2. Okay, we'll just go with 1.5. How's that? Okay, 1 to 2. That works. All right.
So that was how much milk?
Milk.
Or what's the what? So it's white. What is it?
Cornstarch. Someone's been paying attention. Hello. Cornstarch. That whole conversation about cornstarch and arrowroot powder and
Glob cheese.
And glob cheese. He starts thinking about glob cheese and he just loses his mind. Okay, so this is the sauce. And remember, with any kind of starch, it's not going to thicken up until you start heating it, right? Okay, it's like a little chemistry project. Okay, so that's ready. And then, oh, that's starting to stick a little bit. So we'll add a splash of water. There we go. Woo, now I can hear it. All right. And what's next? The mushrooms? My favorite part. And then we're going to add the mushrooms. Here we go. Oh, boy, oh, boy. All right. 2 big mushroom caps. And these were organic portobello mushroom caps from Publix, because it's the only place we could find organic portobello mushrooms. So, Publix. Okay, and we'll let that cook for just a minute. So mushrooms are interesting. When you cook them, they start releasing their own liquid out of them, and then they start shrinking. So kind of like, not as bad as spinach when you cook spinach, and you have like this much spinach, and you end up with this much spinach. That's just crazy. I mean, I guess it's just so much water. You can tell how much water is in something when you cook it, and it goes from huge to teeny tiny. So... all right, now I'm starting to smell that mushroom smell. Okay, I'll be okay. All right, I'm going to add a little more water. It's starting to stick. Now, remember, you can add like a low-sodium vegetable broth, too, instead of water. It'll give it a little bit more flavor. But the sauce that we're putting in is giving it a lot of flavor. So it should be fine just to do it with water. It's getting there. And thanks to our lovely cooking team, we already have a whole bunch of this ready, too. So we'll put rice, some of the brown rice, and some of the Mongolian stir-fry. Why it's called Mongolian stir-fry, I don't know, honestly. So my daughter asked me that today. Why is it Mongolian? Like, I don't know. I don't think it's like, no. I mean, I'm not sure what it is, why they call it that. Cute name, I don't know. But I don't think there's anything in particular that's Mongolian about it. So, I mean, traditionally Mongolian, what would that? No, that's Tibet. I was thinking yak, but that would be Tibet. Okay, that's Tibet. Never mind. There's no yak meat in it. It's just, thank goodness, because I don't want that. All right, it's getting there. It's getting there. And then we saved all the tops of the green onions for the topping as a garnish on top. So we have that too. Does anybody not like toppings, green onion garnish? And then is there anybody here who doesn't like their food to touch? Is it okay if we put the... there are people who don't like it when their food touches. I know that. And so they're out there. And so we can put brown rice on one side and the Mongolian stir-fry on the other, and it doesn't have to touch. Or the way I would serve it at home is in a big bowl with like the Mongolian stir-fry and, the rice and then the stir-fry on top of it. But you know. But there are people who don't like their food. Yes, there are people who don't like their food to touch. I know that. Okay. Okay, so the mushrooms are starting to cook down. I'm going to add all of these vegetables that are already cut up very nicely for us. This is really, I mean, because this is so fast, you can actually buy already pre-sliced portobello mushrooms at Publix. They already have them pre-sliced. So I would probably slice them a little smaller. And I think it was Susan who pointed out to me earlier, was that right, that you watched a YouTube video about portobello mushrooms? And it said to, you know, when you look at a portobello mushroom cap, you flip it over, it's got those gills. They're called gills, and they're like little black furry things on the bottom. And she was saying she learned on a YouTube channel that if you cut that off, it tastes better. So, because... yeah, I mean, to me, that mushroom flavor has never been my favorite. So, and it might taste better without those gills. Maybe that's what I've been doing wrong all these years, not cutting the gills off, because supposedly the gills might make it taste more like dirt. So, and honestly, that's mushrooms have always tasted kind of like a weird dirt kind of thing to me. So. I'm trying.
So she was here cutting the gills off these mushrooms for a while before y'all got here.
I did cut all the gills off before y'all got here. So there's no gills on the bottom, so it shouldn't taste like dirt. All right. We'll just get that nice and hot. And then once they're all cooked through, that's when we add that sauce we made.
So I saw that you put the vegetables in there frozen, basically, right?
Well, they've been in the cooler, so they weren't like solid frozen, but they were still pretty cold. So,
are they cooked before they're frozen?
I think they're like flash cooked. I don't think they're totally raw. I think, especially looking at the broccoli, it looks like it's been lightly blanched or something, or steamed or something, which does make it cook a little faster for you when you put it in your wok. But yeah, so. All right. And then there's about these electric burners. These are great to take with you, but they don't get as hot as your home ones do. So they're good, but they're not perfect. So gas would be even better, except have you all heard that stuff about gas stoves lately, what it's putting into the air that you're breathing? So now I'm glad I don't have a gas stove.
Carbon monoxide, I think.
Yeah, and they figured out that houses where children are that have gas stoves have more asthma than in houses with electric stoves. So, very interesting. So, yeah, I've been wanting a gas stove. Now maybe I changed my mind. I think I'm good. We'll go with induction if I ever redo my kitchen. So, okay, that's getting there. It's getting hot. Okay, and then with the brown rice, it's already done. Way more water than what you would think you need. You could even go with like 10 cups of water and cook it like pasta, like a huge pot of it. And then you'll get even more of the arsenic out of it. But, okay. So that's getting pretty warm. Not quite. And then we also have the smoothie, so I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate that. While this is cooking, we're just going to let this sit over here and cook, and we'll do the smoothie. Okay. So, like I said, this is my favorite smoothie. I love this smoothie so much. It's so good. All right.
Oh. So don't put bananas in it. Since somebody does, we got bananas in the other one. One person can't do bananas.
Who's that? Ooh. One person can't have banana? Where?
Just do it.
So we can do. Okay, so we'll make it without banana, pour a little bit out, and then I'm going to put banana in the rest of it because it is the part that makes it creamier. So, and actually somebody asked me this earlier today at the YMCA, what could I use instead of banana? And if you're going to make it at home and you're allergic to banana or know somebody who, I mean, you really can't taste the banana in it, so if you don't like banana flavor, believe me, the cocoa powder and the cherries are going to cover it up completely. You're just going to taste chocolate-covered cherries, basically. But if you want to make it creamy and replace the banana, is use silken tofu. There's maybe a plant-based yogurt. You could try something like that. You could do some avocado. It's going to make it a little higher in fat, but but still, if you're having it in the morning, then you got all day to burn it off. So yeah, you could do avocado. Silken tofu I would probably do first, just because it has so much protein in it. and it's just so good for you. Tofu is just super good for you. So I would probably do maybe, if you can buy the refrigerated kind. I have never seen the shelf-stable silken tofu in Montgomery. I end up buying it on Amazon. Have you found it anywhere? Right. Healthwise stopped carrying a lot of groceries when they shut the other side down. So, yeah, so I just get it on Amazon. But you can buy silken tofu at most grocery stores. I've seen it at Publix, Target, and Walmart, I think, in the refrigerated. And you just drain some of the liquid off and maybe use like a Fresh Market probably has it too, yeah. So, but you would probably, in place of one banana, maybe a third of a block of the silken tofu would replace about one banana. So, yeah, I think that would probably be pretty good. Let me.
Probably be better for your prostate.
Exactly. Okay. Yes, exactly.
Not that bananas are bad for the prostate. That the unfermented soy that's in tofu is one of the things that's been proven to slow down the growth of prostate cancer cells.
Well, exactly. And also one of the things that speeds up the growth of prostate cancer cells is dairy from cows. So that's, yeah, keep that in mind. All right, so we're going to start with 2 cups of frozen cherries and 2 cups of non-dairy milk, your choice. I like oat milk a lot too, so you could also use oat milk. You could use cashew milk, which is really creamy. And then 1/4 of a cup of cocoa powder. So I think we talked about this last week, but the difference between cocoa powder and cacao, have you all ever seen bags of cacao powder versus cocoa powder? Okay, so cacao powder means that it hasn't been roasted, it's raw. And they took all those little seeds out and they dried them and then pulverized them into a powder. So cacao is raw. Cocoa powder has been roasted. And so the flavor is a little bit different. Some people think cacao powder tastes a little bit bitter, and it can be a little more bitter. The roasting reduces the bitterness in it in cocoa powder. All right. So, but cocoa powder is really, really good for you because it is full of antioxidants. It's delicious. So, chocolate is not bad for you. But milk chocolate, not so much. Milk chocolate has lots of added sugar and dairy, so don't do that. But, all right. Okay, so I'm going to take out one sample for somebody who doesn't want banana, and then I'm going to add banana to the rest of it to make it creamy again. Okay. So this is not going to be quite as creamy, but if you'll take that to banana. Is there anybody else who doesn't want it with banana in it? You really won't taste the banana, I promise. Okay.
There's one more.
Okay. Yeah, I saw it. Okay. One more, Zach. Okay, there we go. Got it? Okay. So I'm going to add banana to the rest. I really don't think, I never taste banana.
Give her 2.
If you play it right, you get 2. Go ahead and let her have it.
There we go. Okay, I'll whirl that up.
Do y'all keep frozen bananas in your fridge, in your freezer? You do?
It's a great thing to do, isn't it?
So, yeah, especially if you have any that you don't manage to eat, they're starting to turn black. That's when you really want to stick them in the freezer when they're nice and sweet. Our freezer's full of them. They're always ready to go.
Right. So you do want to peel them first. So make sure you don't just stick the whole thing in the freezer. So, yeah, don't do that. Because it'd be really
So-
hard to get the peel
right.
back off.
So you wait until they're getting a little bit black, you peel them, and then you put them, you might cut them up if you wanted to, and then you wrap them up in saran wrap just to seal them
I
up.
think we have a video about that on our YouTube channel with frozen fruit. So the way I do it is cut it into little coins, lay it flat on a baking sheet with a rim around it, like a jelly roll pan, with waxed paper, and just lay it out in a single layer, put it in the freezer for a few hours. Once they've frozen, pull them all off and put them in a Ziploc bag. And that way, and then put them into bags that have, you know how many are in it, so like 1 or 2 bananas in each one. You can actually then still use them to make banana bread. So you just let it thaw and make banana bread. So it still works, even after you've frozen them. I've done it lots of times. So whenever I have bananas that are starting to go brown and I don't get the little spots and I don't have time to make banana bread, I just put them in the freezer, get them out when I do have time, and I make banana bread. So, okay, now we're going to add the sauce, and then we'll let you just keep stirring. Here you go. And that should thicken up because of the cornstarch that's in it. And we'll let it bubble for a little bit. Okay. It's a Vitamix. Vitamix, yeah. It's so, I don't know, because, yeah, I don't know. It's Food for Life instructors. Vitamix just sends them to us, so I don't know. I don't know. I can look on the bottom when we're done.
So this is like a $300 blender? I mean, you don't have to have a $300, $500. You don't have to have a $500 blender to get done what you want to get done. If you're trying to make really smooth sauces with cashews, this will make it just so it's perfectly smooth. You can do it with the regular blender too. It's just it'll come out just a little bit grainy. It won't pulverize it quite as much.
So for Christmas, I just got my mom a Ninja blender, and now she can make cashew sauces and creamy things too. So the Ninjas are getting better and better all the time. So there's and they're way less expensive. So there is a new Ninja, I forget what it's called, the name of it. I just got her. It actually came with a food processor attachment and everything. So yeah, it's
Not really meaning to bring up our YouTube channel quite so much, but when we're making some of the sauces, I think she does get to talking about the different blenders and the Vitamix and the other options.
okay. So we're going to go ahead and pass out some rice and Mongolian stir fry, and when we get all our food out, we'll watch the video that we're going to talk about our topic tonight, which is breaking the food seduction, which is basically talking about how to keep doing this, how to keep eating this way after the Daniel fast is over, how to keep going, and how do you deal with family and friends who look at you like you're crazy when you tell them, I don't eat animal products anymore, and they're like, what? Like, what? So how can you do that? So, yeah. All right, so we're going to get out brown rice and stir fry on a plate. Does anybody not like their food to touch? And then we'll make sure you get 2 separate plates. It's a serious thing for some people.
So, as y'all are accumulating success stories, we'd love to hear about them, especially if you had like blood pressure readings before, blood pressure readings after, how many medicines you've been able to stop, cholesterol readings before, cholesterol readings afterwards. If you get that information to us, that would be great. And if we'd really hit on all cylinders and done this perfectly, we might have gotten a team out here to check all those things on you at the beginning and check them at the end. If we're fortunate enough to do this kind of thing with another church in the future, we'll try to hit on all cylinders like that. It can really be helpful for us to have some data. But if you are able to gather some data, showing some success, telling success stories, please send them to us. Carolyn, can I give them your email? So cmstrickland@charter.net. Sound right? Please.
Is there a connection between black women and having too much estrogen and it causing cancer and the tofu and breast cancer?
Yeah. So we touched on the base on that a little bit a couple weeks ago. There was all this. So what happened with breast cancer is they gave mice isolated soy protein and watched to see what would happen with regard to breast cancer with those mice. And they had an increased risk of breast cancer when they were eating isolated soy protein. The hitch is that the amount of protein, the amount of soy they were having was like if you ate a couple buckets of soy every day, because there's this overly concentrated amount, okay? So what winds up, and this is really an understanding in just the last few years as I know it, is that there's actually two types of estrogen receptors. And with the amount of soy that you would get eating 3 or 4 servings of soy a day, the estrogen in soy, the phytoestrogen, the plant-based estrogen, stimulates type 2 estrogen receptors. And those type 2 estrogen receptors, when they're stimulated, they actually slow down the growth of breast cells, slow down the growth of breast cancer. It can be protective, can be reversing. But then, and like the meat-based estrogens, or the estrogens some of the estrogens you produce, the estrogen you get from drinking milk, things like that, they stimulate much more estrogen type 1 receptors. And that makes breast cells grow much more. When you get into massive amounts, if you were to eat, like we had those mice do, if you were to eat like 3 or 4 big buckets of soy every day, you'd be getting enough of that phytoestrogen that it would start stimulating the type 1 estrogen receptors enough to make breast cells grow and increase your risk. If you're eating a normal, like you're eating food like a regular person eats food, if you're having that soy in that way, you're actually protecting your breasts. Does that answer your question? Yes. Isolated. So she was asking about the isolated soy protein. I guess one way to say it is I keep coming back to the idea that, what about this food? What about this food? Is it good or is it bad? It's how far away is it from whole fruits, whole vegetables, whole grains, whole beans, and water? And that isolated soy protein they fed to the mice is not whole soy. It's this one aspect of the soy that was taken out of the soybean, given to them in a concentrated form. And that's part of why it wound up being a bad thing. So, even the mice, if they had kind of nibbled on a few soybeans every day and eaten a normal mouse portion of soy, they probably would have been okay too.
Normal mouse portion of soy? That's a thing?
Is that on the nutrition label?
What's the mouse serving? So we actually talked a few weeks ago about the idea that there was a study done a few years back where they took all these breast cancer survivors, and they gave them, they didn't give them anything. It was an observational study. They had them fill out food diaries for about 7 years, where they followed them for 7 years. And these were all breast cancer survivors, and asked them to complete very, very detailed food diaries. And what they found was that the ones at the end of 7 years who ate the most whole forms of soy reduced their recurrence of breast cancer by 29% and reduced death from all causes by 32%. But that's whole forms of soy. So what are some whole forms of soy? Soybeans, tofu, miso. If you go to an Asian restaurant, miso is fermented soybean paste. Tempeh, soy milk is really not that far. All they do is cook it, grind it up, pull the solids out. You got soy milk. It's not that processed.
So is a food okay? The general idea is, can you take the whole fruit, whole vegetable, whole grain, whole bean, in this case the whole soy, could you take it and in a home kitchen actually process it just with what you have in the kitchen to create that food? You can actually do that to make tofu, right, honey? So, yeah, she's on this cooking channel thing, and they've actually, some of her colleagues have actually made tofu before.
Yes, I have some on. There's a show that I do called So Many Cooks in the Kitchen, which is on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and it's on the Plant-Based Network, where you can go back and watch all the different shows packaged into 30-minute segments. So it's on Amazon Fire, Apple TV, Roku. It's a channel called the Plant-Based Network. So some of my friends have made their own tofu. I've never been that, I'd rather just buy it. It's fine. But so one word of warning about soy is when you buy tofu, make sure it says non-GMO or organic. So if it's organic, it's automatically non-GMO. But if it doesn't say organic, make sure at least that it says non-GMO. Okay?
So it's okay if it doesn't say organic.
Yeah. I mean, as long as it says non-GMO, that's what you want. I prefer organic. I buy organic. I like organic better. And if it's organic, it's automatically non-GMO. It can't be organic and be genetically modified. So it has to be, So to be considered organic, it can't be genetically modified. So buy the healthiest food you can afford. And anytime you're going to choose, I would say that fruits, vegetables, grains, and beans that aren't organic are better for you than organic meat. So go with fruits, vegetables, grains, and beans, the healthiest ones you can afford. With Physicians Committee, we don't stress eating organic, but if you can afford the organic option, go for that, because there are some fruits and vegetables that have more pesticides than others, and there's a website you can go to look that up. The Environmental Working Group, it's just ewg.org, and they always have a list every year of what they call the Dirty Dozen. And those top 12 most pesticide-sprayed foods usually are apples and strawberries are the top two, and spinach is another one. So apples and spinach and strawberries are always in the top 12 and of the Dirty Dozen. So those are ones that you probably want to get organic, just because if it's not, it's probably heavily pesticide sprayed. And specifically the spinach and the strawberries would be really important. If you think about what they have in common, the skin on them is really porous, and pesticides can leach through into the flesh of it. An apple that's not organic, I would probably peel, but anything that you can peel, that you have to peel before you eat, like a banana, then you don't necessarily have to get that organic. But if you're going to eat the outside of it, you might want to look for the organic option. But go to ewg.org, look for the Dirty Dozen, and there's a list of whatever they said this year was the dirtiest, was the most heavily pesticide sprayed. So what do you guys think of the stir fry? It's pretty good, isn't it?
If any of y'all don't know what your taste buds are telling you, that flavor in that stir fry that's really neat, that's ginger. That is a heavily gingered dish.
Oh, yeah.
In a good way.
Oh, yeah. All right, so we're going to try the smoothies, too, which we've already made, and we'll just get them poured out. So I made this one, and we have some in the back, too. Did everybody get a stir fry? I've got another plate of it up here if anybody wants some. Okay. You ate mine? Okay. You ate the one that I was holding? Okay. So I'm going to pour out the smoothie up here that I made, and we'll start getting smoothies out. So he was asking about...
So plant-based meats with pea protein and soy-based, plant-based meats.
So I think there are some that are better than others. So I recommend a brand called Gardein, because Gardein doesn't have a lot of that coconut oil. Like if you're trying to make an imitation meat and you want it to taste like meat, like we said, you don't usually just take a piece of beef and boil it. So it's, what people like about meat is the salt and the fat, right? And so to make a fake meat, basically, you're going to have to add a lot of salt and fat. And so the ones like Beyond Beef and Impossible Burgers and all those things, they have the ones that taste the closest to meat have a huge amount of fat added to them. They have a lot of coconut oil, actually, which is nothing but saturated fat. I remember we talked about coconut oil a few weeks ago, how it's really good for your heels, your lips, your elbows, but not the inside of your body.
So it won't have any, some of those products won't have any meat, cheese, dairy, eggs in them, but you look at the label and you look at the label for regular beef and it's like, or regular hamburger, it's not that different. And I didn't already tell you about the podcast with the guy that made the president of Impossible Burger. So I found this podcast, and they were interviewing the head of Impossible Burger. And he didn't make any bones about it. He is not making health food. He's not trying to keep you healthy. His motivation is to try to save the planet. And so he's found ways to get plant-based saturated fat and all this salt into the burger to make it taste just like a burger. And all these chemical tricks that aren't there to try to improve your health, they're just trying to get you the texture, the mouthfeel of a burger. And what makes this fulfilling to him is that his Impossible Burger creates about 10% as much carbon dioxide as what's created when you create a regular hamburger. So a lot of these ultra-processed things, even though they don't have meat, cheese, dairy, eggs in them, they're not necessarily good for you. Though, it depends on what your goal is. A lot of people in Europe, their goal is to try to save the planet. They're taking global warming really seriously. And they're glad to have that. And they're glad to call themselves vegan and proudly call themselves vegan and have Impossible Burgers and donuts and beer. But they're in it for saving the planet. They feel like they're fulfilling their mission. And that's actually been a confusing thing where you'll see some studies that include vegans from Europe, and the vegans in Europe are nowhere near as healthy as the vegans over here. Because in the United States, people that are vegan are tending more to do it for their health, so they're not going for the Impossible Burger and the beer and the donuts. And whereas over there, they're look, forget my health, I'm just wanting to save the planet. And they tend to have a less healthy diet. Yes, ma'am. Looking for a smoothie back there.
Oh, they're coming. They got more about, Zach's coming around with them.
Zach is your friend.
All right. So something I wanted to point out about what we were just talking about, people in Europe, when they go vegan, tend to go vegan more for health of the planet or concern about animal rights. In the United States, people are more concerned about their own health, so they go vegan for their own health. But interestingly, has everybody heard of Epicurious magazine? So it's one of those expensive, fancy cooking magazines. And back in July, I want to say, they announced, this past July, maybe the July before, they announced we are no longer going to include beef recipes in our magazine because of how bad beef is for the environment. So the meat and dairy industry are terrible for climate change. And some researchers, climate researchers, actually think that the meat and dairy industry are causing most of the problem with climate change. Not just a small percentage, but most of it. And so Epicurious agreed with that and said, we're just leaving beef out of our magazine, and we don't think anybody will care because we left it out starting a year ago and nobody said anything.
But there's a great book out there called Food is Climate. And if you look at our YouTube channel, we actually had the opportunity to interview the author of that. And it makes a very, very strong case for the food industry and the way food is raised being the by far leading cause of global warming.
Right. So. Okay, so we We have a video to watch. I think we're still passing out smoothies, but yes. Yes, you could use quinoa instead of rice.
Play with your
Absolutely.
food.
You could, another thing you could do instead of rice is serve this with some rice noodles. That would be really good too. Like pad thai noodles, a rice noodle. That would be delicious with this. So, okay, we're going to watch our video really quickly.
Is that enough volume, you guys? Is that enough volume?
Let me ask you something. Can foods be addicting? Sugar on the tongue triggers the release of opiates within the brain. Now, when I say opiates, I mean the natural brain chemicals that are actually similar to heroin or morphine. Now, they're not that strong, but have you ever heard about the runner's high? Marathon runners get this at about mile 10 or 15, this wonderful feeling, and that's natural opiates in the brain. So, sugar on the tongue triggers the release of opiates in our brain, and next, that triggers the release of dopamine. Now, have you heard of that? That's a brain chemical that's responsible for feelings of pleasure. Sugar might act a little bit like a drug, but the question really is sugar a problem? I'm going to argue that sugar is not a problem if you're only having a little bit of it. A teaspoon of sugar only has 15 calories. Well, who cares, right? But a chocolate chip cookie or a soda or candy and junk food, they have so much dissolved sugar in them that it gets completely out of hand. So sugar, I think, can be a problem in particular also when it's mixed in with fatty products used to make things like cookies or cakes and pies. That sugar lures you in, and then the fat and butter, dairy and eggs starts to cause the biggest problem. Take a look at all of these foods. Any one of them call out to you? Are there any of them you might be just a little hooked on? Green beans? Cauliflower? Yeah, no, I didn't think so. But how about that chocolate? Do we have some chocolate lovers here? Okay, this is Narcan or naloxone. This is a drug that's used in emergency rooms when there's a heroin overdose. When injected into the vein or administered nasally, Narcan travels to the brain and blocks heroin from being able to attach. Now, if Narcan is given to someone who is addicted to chocolate, you see the most amazing thing. You can offer them a tray of chocolates. But as long as the naloxone is in their blood, the chocolate lover won't really be interested in it. I know, it's hard to believe. But note, this is not a treatment. This is a research tool that shows that it's not just the taste and mouthfeel of chocolate, but there's something about it that has a drug-like effect in the brain. We know this because we can block it with an opiate blocker like Narcan. Now, let's say a word about cheese. I'd like to say a special word about it because whenever we do a vegan research study and we're trying to peel people away from fattening foods, for some reason, cheese lingers on their mind. It's the worst smelling aisle in the grocery store. It smells like feet, right? For a lot of people, though, cheese is the food they have the most trouble breaking away from. They just get hooked. Well, we've done a lot of work to try and figure out why this is, and I think we found the answer. The answer is something called casomorphins. Now, you may never have heard of casomorphins, but you might have heard of casein. Casein is milk protein, and just like all proteins, if you could look at them with a powerful microscope, they look like a string of beads. Each bead is an amino acid. So a protein molecule is nothing but a string of these amino acid molecules in a row. Once they hit your digestive tract, they break apart into individual amino acids or beads that you can absorb into your bloodstream to then make your own protein. Except that casein, the milk protein, doesn't behave that way. When you digest it, it breaks into strings of maybe 4 or 5 or 6 amino acids, and they remain biologically active. Here's the chemical formula for them. Now, this isn't going to be on the test. I just want to show you the idea that when you eat cheese, these chemicals are going down your intestinal tract, and they are opiates. Mild opiates, but opiates. When I say opiates, did you ever have surgery and you had a painkiller injected afterwards? Something like Demerol or morphine? Did you notice that the next day you were really constipated? That's an opiate effect. Now, did you ever linger at the cheese buffet just a little too long, and the next day you were a little constipated again? Cheese is very constipating because it releases a load of opiates into your intestinal tract, and maybe that's why we get a little hooked on it. But why would nature pack cheese with protein and fat and opiates? Well, I'll tell you what I think. If a nursing calf decided, you know what, I'm not going to nurse today, I'm just going to go walk around in the woods and maybe I'll come back tomorrow, that calf isn't going to do very well. Or a nursing baby. If you look at a nursing baby, after they eat, they get this goofy expression on their face and then they pass out into this deep sleep. And we think, wow, look at the beauty of the mother-infant bond. And of course it is, but it's also nature's way of making sure the baby gets all the nutrients and growth formula they need. Milk, whether it's from a cow or a human mother, has protein, it has fat, it has hormones in it, but it also has opiates, which make the baby feel good when they drink it. Now, a little bit of that opiate is what makes the baby love nursing. It makes the calf come back to nurse them more. But what it also means is that adults get hooked on the very same opiate effect. Is it a good idea to break free from cheese? You bet. It is one of the most fattening foods. If I have 2 ounces of cheese, which is the amount in a typical sandwich, it's got roughly 200 calories and a lot of fat, and it is not good fat. It is mostly saturated. That cheese also has a whole lot of cholesterol. In fact, there's as much cholesterol in cheese as there is in steak. For people with joint pain or migraines or digestive problems, don't go one more day eating animal products, but especially get rid of the dairy products. For so many people, that can be a cure for their arthritis. Not for everyone, but for some. Don't take this on faith. Just get it out of your life and see if you don't have a good effect. A special word for men. Researchers have looked around at how diet might relate to prostate cancer. And it turns out the countries that have the most milk consumption, like Sweden, Switzerland, and the United States, have a lot more prostate cancer compared with Hong Kong, Japan, or Thailand. Well, it turns out that the more milk men consume, the higher their risk of developing prostate cancer. In fact, 2 Harvard studies showed that the risk is really quite significant. A review of almost 50 studies done by the researchers at the Mayo Clinic specifically observed a protective effect from vegan diets with increased consumptions of, you guessed it, vegetables, legumes, and tomato products, while higher intakes of dairy products increase the risk for prostate cancer. So, is it easy to get that dairy out of your diet? Absolutely, but I have to tell you, in some ways, Americans are going in exactly the wrong direction. In 1909, when the Department of Agriculture started keeping records, your average American went through 3.8 pounds of cheese in a year. Well, about 100 years later, we were up to over 30 pounds of cheese in a year. In 2005, 31.4 pounds. Today, it's almost 40 pounds per person per year, and I'm not eating any. Somebody else is getting mine. Cheese certainly isn't helping the obesity epidemic that we're seeing in America. So, we've talked about sugar, we've talked about chocolate, and we've talked about cheese. There's one more food that we need to talk about, and that's meat. For a lot of people, they would say, I'd rather die than give up meat. And if you look at meat consumption over time, it's gradually inched up. But you know what? It's not red meat. It's really the chicken that's taken off in recent years. People are consuming a huge amount of chicken now. In the United States, people are consuming more than 1 million chickens per hour. It's true. Americans are eating about 10 billion per year. It's because people think chicken is somehow health food. Well, it really isn't. We're in about the worst shape we've ever been in. Now, back in April of 2000, researchers did an interesting survey. They asked a group of adults, could you give up meat for 1 week if I paid you $1,000? What was interesting is when they asked Asian Americans or Hispanic Americans, virtually all of them would say, hey, give me the $1,000, I can give up meat for a week. Why? Well, one reason might be because traditional foods in these cultures center on plant-based staples, things like tofu and vegetables, or beans and rice. But when they asked white Americans or black Americans, between 1/4 and 1/3 of them said, no way, couldn't give up meat for a week even if you paid me $1,000. That's starting to sound just a little bit like addictive behavior. Remember when we talked about Narcan and chocolate lovers? Well, the same is true with meat. If we give someone Narcan, they eat less ham, less salami, less tuna, and less meat. And that is a sign that meat has an opiate effect in the brain too, just like chocolate, and that might explain why people tend to get hooked on it. Is it a good idea to break away from a meaty diet? Absolutely. A meatless diet has so many benefits. It reverses heart disease, and the average person loses about 10% of their body weight when they stop eating meat. Now, that's an average. If you're already slim, you may not lose anything, but if you're really heavy, you can lose a lot. Cancer risk may drop by as much as 40%. Blood pressure tends to come down. Diabetes improves, and sometimes it even goes away. And have you seen the new research on Alzheimer's disease? People whose cholesterol levels are low, people who are eating low-fat diets, and people who avoid meat and animal fat seem to have a lower risk for Alzheimer's disease. Stay tuned. We need more research, but it's really very exciting. So, the foods that get us hooked are sugar, chocolate, cheese, and meat. That's the list. Nobody ever went to 7-Eleven at 10 o'clock at night to buy cauliflower. Nobody ever said, I'm so lonely, I think I'll steam some green beans. Or I am so mad, I'm going to go buy some fresh strawberries. Nope, people don't get hooked on those things. What we get hooked on is sugar, we get hooked on chocolate, we get hooked on cheese, and we get hooked on meat. Now, how do I break free? Number one, again, focus on the short term. Don't worry about what you're going to do a long time from now. Avoid temptations and avoid triggers. We learned about this with tobacco. You don't want to have cigarettes anywhere in your field of view or you're going to be going straight for them. Same with alcohol, and it's also true with food. So keep the foods that you're trying to get away from out of your kitchen and out of your house, and ask your family and friends for support. Because you know what? A lot of them are dealing with the same problems that you and I are dealing with. And if we ask our friends for support, they can say, I won't tempt you with things, and maybe I'll help you to stay away from things that you know aren't so good for you. Now, if you need a little help, I've got 7 tips. Number 1, have breakfast. Have a healthy breakfast, because if you go to work without breakfast, you're going to be hungry when the donut tray comes by. But if you've had breakfast, you at least have a little bit of resistance. Use foods that hold blood sugar steady, like beans, fruit, pasta, and whole intact grains, whereas white bread can cause your blood sugar to go up and then down. And when it's coming down, that's when cravings kick in. So that's a roller coaster to stay off. Third, don't cut calories. I know this is counterintuitive, but you don't need to starve yourself to lose weight. Eat plenty of food, these whole plant foods, and you're going to find that the cravings just aren't so bad. Then try to break craving cycles. If every night at 8 o'clock chocolate is calling your name, don't be home. What I mean is you've got to do something that's inconsistent with giving in to whatever the particular craving is. Next, get exercise and rest. Think about kids, right? Kids are running around all day long, and when they finally fall asleep, they are out. Then the next morning, they get up and they're running around again, full of energy. For us, we're not typically doing that. We're not exercising much, and as a result, we're not tired, which means we don't rest very well at night. Our body isn't really tired, and when we wake up the next day, if we've had rocky sleep, we'll eat pretty much anything, and we'll do anything just to get through the day, and that's when cravings kick in. I think all of us have had that experience at some point. Now, exercise gives you a good night's sleep, and that helps give you more resistance. Social support is also really important. That means you should get your family and friends involved. Even if they don't do the same things you do, let them know what you're doing and ask them for their support. Then take advantage of other motivators. You might not be too worried about prostate cancer or heart disease, but you may be really concerned about the environment. Or maybe you're vegetarian because you want to be kind to animals. Those are great motivators. Whatever works for you, plug into it. I hope that you found these tips useful and that you're able to break that food seduction. Now, let me turn it over to the group and see if this doesn't make some sense. Thanks.
Yeah, a big thing that helped me was plugging into my inner cheapskate. Because and one thing that the big experts usually manage to say in programs like this that we hadn't said yet, if you had the experience where you got into this plant-based diet and you started feeling bad, having a little bit less energy, a big thing there is very often that you're just not getting enough calories in. And you might add in some nuts, you might add in some avocado, you might just flat out eat more. Because it takes so much more fruits and vegetables to get anywhere close to the amount of calories you were getting with meat, cheese, dairy, eggs. usually your energy will come back if you just have a little bit more.
Exactly. Okay, so we have a test, a little quiz. So find your little quiz. All righty. So number 1, which of the following is true? Opiates trigger dopamine. Dopamine triggers opiates. Opiates trigger Narcan. Or fat triggers sugar. A, opiates trigger dopamine. So when you take opiates into your system, it triggers dopamine, that feel-good hormone in your brain. So, and remember, cheese and dairy, but cheese mostly, has an opiate-like effect. Like she was talking about, it has that opiate effect of just like taking opiates after surgery makes you constipated. Cheese makes you constipated too. So it's that opiate effect. All right, number 2, some of the most addictive foods include sugar, chocolate, meat, cheese, or all of the above. It's always all of the above, isn't it, when there's a multiple choice? Okay, which of the following is true? Cheese has far less cholesterol than steak. Cheese has far more cholesterol than steak. Or cheese has about the same amount of cholesterol as a steak. C, cheese has about the same amount of cholesterol as steak. Okay, countries that consume blank dairy products have blank prostate cancer. So is it countries that consume the most dairy products have more prostate cancer? Yes, it is. It's A. I'm not even going to go through the other ones because it's A. Yes. There's a really interesting graph you can see if you see this graph that shows the countries that consume the most dairy products, and then they put the prostate cancer numbers over it, and it just goes right up the exact same scale on the graph. It's crazy. And then how many chickens do Americans consume per hour?
1 million.
1 million. Does that not blow your mind? That's a lot of little chickens. I mean, oh my goodness. I know, poor little chickens. It's so sad. It's really awful. Okay.
But it helps you clue into why it's so industrialized. I mean, it's the most of the chicken you're getting out there it's all about conveyor belts and automated processing. I mean, it's not. You see what's going on, and it's like it's not like, oh boy, I'd really like to eat that.
Eating worms and stuff. It's yes. Mm-hmm. Oh. Right. Right. So she's saying she has a cousin who is a chicken farmer for Tyson, and she went to visit and stopped eating chicken after that. So, yeah. So, in fact, the creator of Gardein that we were talking about, the plant-based meat, his name is that Chad Sarno? I think that's Chad Sarno, who created Gardein. He is a Culinary Institute of America trained chef. And he decided when he finished his training, so CIA, he's a CIA trained chef, which is it's a very big name in chef schools. And when he finished, he decided he wanted to open a chain of restaurants in California, and he wanted all locally procured meats and all the products that he had in his restaurant. He wanted to come from local farms. So he started visiting local farms. And after visiting local farms, he decided to become vegetarian because he was horrified at what he saw, the conditions the animals lived in, and then people are eating them. He was horrified. And so that's why he developed Gardein, because he still liked the flavor of meat. He just didn't like what he saw happening.
Yeah.
And so...
And a lot of us would think that having dominion over the animals means treating them with a little bit more respect than that, right?
Right. Well, exactly.
No, it was already answered.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
No, CIA, Culinary Institutes of America, that kind of CIA. Yes. A different CIA. The Culinary Institutes of America. Okay, so the PCRM video had some recommendations about how to keep going, those 7. I have some more that I wrote down for you, so my plant-based tips for success that are on here. And change is hard. Change is hard for everybody, always. Change is never easy because we like things we're used to, right? We like doing the things the way we've always done them because routines are comforting. Change is hard, especially when, it's change that you grew up. If it's a change from something that you were doing your whole life.
Yeah.
That
You
makes
can
it
feel like
hard.
you're betraying your mother.
You feel like you're betraying your mama and your grandma because, you know, my grandma fed me this way. I mean, my grandma fed us all kinds of stuff. So that she was interesting. My grandma fed us rabbit and told us it was chicken. So she fed us really interesting food when I was little. So, but you know, you grow up eating a certain way and then you feel like you're betraying your family because, well, my mama taught me to eat meat and three. My mama taught me this. My mama taught me that. But like we said last week, what Maya Angelou said, my favorite Maya Angelou quote, you do the best you can until you know better. And when you know better, you have to do better. We know better. The research on nutrition has come a long way in the past 25 years. We know a lot more about how it impacts our health. So now we know better. We have to do better, right? Okay.
Yeah, I really don't think the evidence tipped until 2009.
Yeah, it was probably right around the time that movie Forks Over Knives came out that it really changed. Like, you could see the evidence out there. And if you watch the Game Changers, you can see they show you the scientific study in the movie. So, okay, so my tips are, remember your why. Why are you doing this? And if it's, you know, because our pastor said to. So, okay, that's a good enough reason for now. But then when you get to the end of your 90 days and you feel really good and all of a sudden things have changed, you know, and you feel better, you've lost weight, your blood pressure is down, your A1C is down, everything is doing better, then that's your new why. You found your own why. So find your own why, not just because my pastor said so. So find your own why and keep going because of that. Think about the gains, not the pains. Think about what you're getting out of it and not, I'm giving up so much stuff, which is why that one app is so good, Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen. Learn more. Keep learning. The more you learn, the better off. Just be a continuous student. The better off you're going to be, the more you keep learning. So there's all kinds of YouTube channels and books and websites and just so many things out there about how to be healthier without having to get drugs to do it. How to do it for yourself.
And the App Store actually has Plant-Based Network. You could go on there and see her and so many cooks in the kitchen, but they've got a lot of other programs that are good resources.
So one, I think a lot of you are already doing is get some support. So find other people who are going through what you're going through. And to that end, we do a Meatless Monday gathering the first and third Mondays of every month. We go to a restaurant. That's how I met Pastor Kyle Searcy, was we were at Meatless Monday. And, you know, my dad always used to say there's no such thing as a coincidence. Coincidences are God's way of remaining anonymous. And so he was at Kava when we were at Kava for Meatless Monday, and we sat and talked for 2 hours. And he said, come to my church and help us do this. And so that's how we're here, through Meatless Monday. We also do a monthly plant-based potluck where you bring the food to Eat South Downtown Farm, which is right behind the advertiser building. So it's like you're driving into the back parking lot of the advertiser, and all of a sudden there's a farm down there. And we grow all kinds of, we don't use any pesticides, but you bring food to this, and it's the second Tuesday of every month at 6 o'clock at the farm. And it's on Facebook. It's called Veg Out, VEGOUT, Veg Out Montgomery. And then if we get rained out, we're going to post it on there saying we're canceled tonight, it's raining. So you want to look at that Facebook page before you come.
And the first and third Mondays of the month at restaurants, that's also on Facebook under Meatless Monday Montgomery.
Montgomery, right. And the next one.
Ayana joined us a couple weeks ago, and that was a treat.
And yes, exactly. So and Robin was here too. So the next Meatless Monday, if anybody's interested, is this coming Monday, February 6th. We're going to Green Papaya on Coliseum Boulevard. They have a lot of plant-based options, and if you just tell the server, I don't want any eggs or meat or whatever in my dish, they make it totally plant-based. So we'll be there this coming Monday. And then this one is really important. Think of being plant-based as a lifestyle, not a diet. Like, I'm on this 90-day diet. Well, it's not really a diet. It's more like just a way of life. So that, or we've been on a diet since 2009. But I don't think of it as a diet. It's just the way we eat.
But Green Papaya is Monday at 6 p.m.
Monday at 6, yeah.
Okay, so, but if you think of it not as, like when I think of a diet, people say I'm on a diet. That's kind of a time-limited thing. When you think you're on a diet, you're only on a diet for, a few weeks, a month or two. But don't think of it as a diet. Think of it as, this is just how I eat.
I talk to my patients about a fork in the road. Can this be your fork in the road? Can this be your new path?
Right. Make a new path. Exactly. Take it one meal at a time. So don't try to think about 10 years from now, what am I going to eat? Just think about what am I going to eat for my next meal? And just take it one meal at a time. And then plan ahead, which sounds counterintuitive to take it one meal at a time. But if you think about planning ahead for specific events, like if you're going to something for the 4th of July or for Christmas or whatever, or you're going to be at a social event where they're serving things that are not good for you, what can you do? And I have a board that I serve on that before the pandemic anyway, they served us lunch all the time. And I always knew I'm going to have to sit there and watch everybody eat this because it was nothing I was going to eat. So I would just bring food with me. And people would look at me and go, we have food. I'm like, no, I'm good. I didn't think of it as food. It looked awful and it was very unhealthy. And so I just brought my own stuff in a little bag. For the 4th of July, I would make things like so if you were late, you missed the cheese dip, but we still have some left, I think. So I made that cheese dip, and I brought it and snuck it into the room where all the food was, because everybody knows how I eat, so I didn't want anybody to know I made it. And so I brought it in, set it down, and ran out of the room. And then people kept coming in and getting more and more and more. I mean, they ate all of it, and they were like, wow, this is the best Rotel dip I ever had. This is fabulous. And one kid, a 15-year-old, said, Miss Carolyn, you should try that cheese dip. And he said, oh, wait, you don't eat cheese? And I said, nope, I don't eat cheese. And then finally he came back a few hours later and he goes, what did you bring? And I said, that cheese dip. And he said, whoa, what's in it? He said, then that wasn't really cheese. I said, it was not really cheese. What's in it? I said, well, it had potatoes and carrots and cashews and Rotel tomatoes and cauliflower. And he went, oh, my God, cauliflower? I don't like cauliflower. I said, yeah, you do. You ate 3 plates of it. I watched you do it. So planning ahead for if you're going to be in a social situation, plan ahead. Bring a granola bar in your purse or your backpack, or bring some nuts and raisins or whatever you need to do to not be starving in a social situation where you feel tempted then to go, oh, I'll just go ahead and eat those Cheetos, So have something healthy with you. Bring an apple, bring a banana. Team up. So it's really good to have somebody you can call. If you're feeling tempted and you say, oh, I really want to get this, this cheeseburger, have somebody you can call and say, talk me down. Help me out here. Try new things. So one of the best things for your gut microbiome is to try new fruits and vegetables. So for a while, I challenged myself to, every time I went to the grocery store, I would walk through the produce section and see, is there something here I've never tried? And then I would get it. And then go home and look up at a YouTube channel of, what do I do with this thing? Like a cherimoya, what is that? And so I would, look it up and figure out how to eat it, how to cook with it, what to do with it. Because the more diversity you can give your gut bacteria, your microbiome, the healthier it's going to be. It wants all those different fruits and vegetables and grains and beans. So try to challenge yourself with a new grain or a new vegetable you've never tried, or a new fruit. Fruits are so much fun because they're usually sweet and delicious. And so, anytime you can get to a farmer's market and try something that you've never tried from a local farmer, that's great for you.
But I think that's been a big change for us. We do much, much less of having a recipe and going and trying to find the ingredients for the recipe. We've done a whole lot more. We do more and more and more of, okay, what's fresh? What's going to taste the best right now? What's available at the farmer's market? What's in our community-supported agriculture bag? And then coming up with what we're going to make based on what ingredients we're getting. Right. And what ingredients are going to be the best. Which is seasonal, local, fresh.
Exactly. And the last one is just have fun with it and be patient with yourself. Forgive yourself when you fall down. Get back up, dust yourself off. Persevere, keep going. But really forgive yourself because, you're going to make a slip up. That's fine. Just dust yourself off, get back up, and try again. But, change is not easy. Change is never easy. So, yes. Mm-hmm.
So, what is different with like a plant-based diet versus Mediterranean diet?
Okay.
With the exception of seafood.
Plant-based diet versus Mediterranean diet. So a plant-based diet is plants, predominantly plants. A Mediterranean diet does focus on salmon and other seafoods, but also the inclusion of a lot of olive oil. So as far as diets go, if you were to rank them all from like least healthy to most healthy, the most healthy, whole food, plant-based, low salt, oil, and sugar, all the way down to standard American diet. Actually, there's a worse diet than the standard American diet. The junk food vegan diet is actually really bad. So if you're eating nothing but Beyond Meat burgers and Oreo cookies all day, then that's way worse because you're not getting many nutrients out of that. There's another one that's super, super bad. What are the name of the islands? It's an American territory, not Samoa. I'm trying to think.
Marshall Islands.
The Marshall Islands. The Marshall Islands, where the United States did a lot of testing of atomic weapons and things a long time ago. There are Marshall Islanders, people who are native to those islands, and they have an even worse diet than the standard American diet. Their favorite drink is huge containers like this that are bright purple, bright orange, and bright green.
It's basically Kool-Aid.
It's basically like Kool-Aid
Yeah.
filled with high fructose corn syrup, and they drink it all the time. Also, fried ramen noodles dipped in, those sweet and sour candies that you dip things that you dip. Yeah, they dip fried ramen noodles in that, and so it's way worse. And in fact, 90-something% of the adults have type 2 diabetes in the Marshall Islands. It's like the standard American diet on steroids. It's like the United States sent them all of our junk. So it's really bad. If they were eating the food that was native to the Marshall Islands, they'd be fine, but they're eating a lot of junk. So, but if you rank things from really bad, standard American diet territory, all the way up, the Mediterranean diet is going to be pretty high up there. It's not anywhere near as bad as standard American.
You want to start working towards getting the surveys
Yes.
to them?
So
maybe you could start gathering stuff for that.
Okay.
The Mediterranean diet. You've probably heard of the Mediterranean diet being healthy, right? So it started out with recognizing that people in the Mediterranean region, they seem to have less heart attack and stroke, at least less than Americans. Well, so yeah, everybody got excited. I'm going to go have more cheese. I'm going to glug some olive oil, right? I'm going to have the fish. Yeah, people thought that was the way to be healthy because the Mediterranean diet is healthy. Well, it winds up that that's not what's making people healthier in the Mediterranean. What's making them healthier is what their plate looks like. Their plate is a big pile of vegetables, a big pile of fruit, a salad, and a little garnish amount of meat. Okay? And that's why the Mediterranean diet is healthy. It's because of the size of the meat. It's not because of the presence of the olive oil or fish or something like that. So, I mean, when you're comparing Mediterranean to vegan, if you're really doing a Mediterranean diet the way Mediterraneans eat a Mediterranean diet, it's a good diet because it's a big step towards fruits, vegetables, grains, and beans compared to the standard American diet. Does that answer your question?
Well, there was a study done comparing the standard American diet to the Mediterranean diet. Yeah, Mediterranean diet is better. But recently there was a study comparing Mediterranean to whole food plant-based. And whole food plant-based wins hands down every time. So, okay, so we have I can try, but everybody has one of these surveys already in front of you. You could also, so it's a survey, and while y'all are filling it out, we'll also do our drawing, our raffle, because I have two really cool things. So, all right. So it has a front and a back. So don't forget the back. So this, when it says on it, how many classes did you attend? So we just did 4 here. So it's 1, 2, 3, or 4, whatever. It doesn't. I mean, it's okay. Be honest. If this is your first one, put 1. It's fine. And then it's just going to ask you a lot of questions about how much meat did you used to eat and how are you doing now, that kind of thing. And then what you think about the class, any changes you would make to it, any suggestions, things you really liked, just write it all down. You could also, if you want to, fill it out online instead of doing the paper survey. I'll show you how to do that really fast. So if you go to, we'll go back. So go to PCRM. Let me look. What did I Google to get there? Oh, find an instructor. So PCRM, find an instructor. And then you just click the very first thing, Food for Life, find an instructor. And that takes you to this whole list of all of us Food for Life instructors around the world. And under Alabama, click Montgomery. And that's me. And then you scroll down and you see the class that you're in right now, Kickstart Your Health, or the one I did yesterday, which is Food for Fitness. But you click Kickstart Your Health, and it takes you, it shows where we are on the map. Look at that. And then it takes you all the way down to Complete Survey. And you can do it online too. Really? That's how you found Oh, cool. Okay. Yes, exactly. Yeah, she's on plantbaseddocs.com. So if you're trying to find a plant-based doctor, you go to plantbaseddocs.com and you can find doctors all over the country who are plant-based. So this is one way to do it, is just do it online. But they really do want to know how people feel about the class. So it helps to fill out surveys. Helps me too, because I have to have at least 20 of them filled out or I don't get paid back for all the food. So that would be, yeah. So, and then we will do our prize drawing too, because I have 2 really good prizes. So I'll give you all a minute to fill those out. Yes. Oh, yeah.
So I was just curious, is it really plant-based or does it have meat mixed with it?
It's beets. They put beet juice in it.
Beets. Okay.
Yeah, they are freakishly meat-like.
Okay.
They kind of, yeah.
Yeah, so she was saying that she'd made a Beyond Burger and the juice that was in there was red like blood. And
Oh, yeah. Actually, I make beet burgers at home. You whirl up like raw beets and oats and brown rice and stuff like that. And there's a lot of recipes for those. And it always looks like raw meat. It kind of freaks me out. And then you want to be careful when you eat one of those, a beet burger, because the next day you might think you're bleeding to death after you go to the bathroom. But it's beets. It's beets. You're good.
But it's cool. You can kind of have a race with your spouse, because when you eat that, you can see how quickly your food is passing through your digestive tract, and generally the more fiber you have, the quicker it's going to pass on through. It's a good test of character. Mine goes through about an hour faster than hers.
It's because he gets up an hour before I do. That's why. Do you remember how many hours you want it to be? Transit time? Is it like 16 hours or less?
I think 16. I think I was 13 and you were 14.
I slept an hour later, but yeah. So it's one good way to check your transit time. Eat some beets. Remember what time you ate them, and then see what time it is when you see them again. So, and then you'll know how long your transit time is. And you don't want it to be longer than about 16 hours. And if it is longer than 16 hours, eat more fiber. Yeah. Eat more things with fiber in it. So we have, if you're not feeling well and it comes out really fast, then yeah, it can be too brief. But yes.
Yes. Yeah.
As far as honey goes to sweeten like drinks and stuff, is there I guess an opinion one way or the other about honey being vegan or not?
Yeah, so we may have enough plant-based people in the room to where that starts a fight. We'll have to see.
Honey is a really controversial topic or a touchy issue in the plant-based community. Technically, because bees make it, and bees need it to survive, and we're taking it away from them.
So they actually take in the nectar of the flower and then throw it back up. So yeah, it's like, is that still vegan or not?
It's bee vomit.
Yeah.
Basically. I mean, it's the nectar of a flower, but the bee digested it for a little bit and puked it back up, basically. So that's what honey is. So technically, to a very strict vegan who does it for ethical reasons, for concern about animals, including bees, it would not be vegan. It's not considered plant-based, really. It's an interesting dilemma. So a lot of vegans instead will use maple syrup or agave nectar, date syrup. It's very easy to make your own date syrup. You just cook dates and then whirl it up with a lot of water. And
we use dates a lot.
We use dates for sweetener a lot because they're lower on the glycemic index, too. They don't spike your blood sugar up as high.
We didn't make those date peanut butter things for them.
Date peanut butter things. Darn it. Yeah. I brought them to Hyundai.
I just gave you the recipe, really. Actually, you just take the seed out and you split it up and just put some peanut butter in there. It's amazing. It's like
I did do stuffed dates at Hyundai back in June.
Yeah.
Because I remember Trey got something.
He's given thumbs up about the stuffed dates.
Just take a whole date, pull the pit out, and put like a teaspoon of peanut butter in it. And then if you really want to take it up a notch, put a little bit of shredded coconut on top. It tastes like a coconut, like a candy bar that has coconut.
But we'll have people over and we'll have like this tray of these dates with some peanut butter and coconut. And people just trip out about how tasty it is.
And it looks like a fancy dessert.
And they think we did something really big and special. It's like it's like the
date,
easiest
peanut
thing,
butter.
and it's really good. I mean,
really easy.
if you're trying to make somebody happy and be impressed that you're eating plant-based and finding your way, it's a real quick and easy way to do it.
So good, too. And then you could sprinkle a few little mini dairy-free chocolate chips on it and really take it up a notch. And then there's the no-bake brownie bites that I brought to Hyundai the other day because the Y asked me to go out and talk about what the Y is, the YMCA classes that I teach, the food classes that I teach there. So I just taught yesterday at Bell Road Y Food and Fitness. Yes, did you have a question?
Well, it wasn't a question. I was just going to say with the dates, if you like pecan pie, I just take dates and put pecans in there, and it tastes just like a pecan pie.
Yes, exactly. So half of a pecan stuffed inside of a date, too, and just eat it. It's so good. Oh, yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, and that's something I figured out about dates not long ago. We had some that got kind of dried out, and so we took the pit out. They were still a little dry, put a little peanut butter in it, and then put it in the microwave for about 20 seconds. Oh, my gosh, it was so good.
So if you can tell by how breathy we're talking about this food and how our eyes get big and all this, I mean, you can be 14 years into this and still really, really love your food.
We're not missing out. Eating this way, that's for sure. So, and then don't take your surveys home with you. I need them. So we'll collect them. Yes. Did you have a question?
Thank you, Zach.
You know how people
that helps.
use gum or mints and stuff like that for their. Sometimes you feel like you want to freshen your breath. What can you use for that?
A natural breath freshener. I grow mint in the backyard, and you just pull off some mint leaves and chew on them, and you get great breath. So parsley and mint are great breath fresheners.
I like what an apple does. That freshens
it.
And
an apple, yeah. Eat an apple because that cleans your teeth off as you're eating it, too. So apple. Yeah, there's a lot of different things. But strawberries, yeah, anything that's, you have to bite into is going to kind of clean your teeth off a little bit. I mean, sometimes, though, if I'm, when I used to work at Vanderbilt, I would go brush my teeth right after lunch. I'd have a toothbrush that I kept with me, and I would just go brush my teeth. But, it's always a good idea to go brush your teeth. But, okay, we got to do our drawing because y'all are going to want to win these two things I got. Okay, so who are we going to let draw? No, I'm not giving. I wish I could give away my Vitamix, but I'm not giving away. I can't live without my Vitamix.
4019.
All right, so the first thing we have is this
4019.
4019. I have this awesome book, The Vegan Starter Kit. Trey, is it yours, really? All right. So this was written basically by my boss, Dr. Bernard. This is the Vegan Starter Kit, and you can order it on Amazon. But it has recipes. It tells you Okay, so it has recipes and it has lots of tips for how to stay healthy and keep going with the vegan diet. Here you go.
Thank you, Maya.
Hey, Trey, draw the next one.
Oh, yeah, you get to draw the next one. Okay.
How much money y'all got?
And I have my mic came back on.
Last four digits. 3, 9, 9, 9.
We've got a winner!
Woo! Okay, I got to tell y'all what it is because this is a really cool book. Okay, this is Unbelievably Vegan by Charity Morgan. Her husband plays for the Nashville Titans. Yeah? Okay, and they were featured in the movie The Game Changers. And there's one thing I want to point out about this book. So if you order it, you want to get the book, great. She uses a little too much oil in some of the recipes. So if it's a baked good and it calls for a bunch of oil, replace some of that with some mashed banana or some applesauce, and you'll cut way down on the fat. But she does use quite a bit of oil in some of the recipes, and let me think, what else was it? Salt. She uses a little more salt than I would probably do. But you can cut down on that, and you can always replace some of the oil that's in the recipes. It's a great book, though. She has some really good salad dressing recipes. And I have figured out with salad dressing, if it calls for oil, you can actually, this is so weird, but you can use applesauce. And if you're whirling it all up in a blender, you won't even taste the applesauce, and it makes it thick, just like the oil did, and you just cut out all that fat. So I actually make Italian dressing with applesauce in it, and he's never noticed. So one of the best, and I'm going to give y'all a really fast and easy salad dressing recipe. This is so crazy. Just 3 tablespoons of rice wine vinegar and 2 tablespoons of orange juice. And whisk it up and pour it over a salad. It's like amazing. It is so good. There's a different one called 3-2-1 dressing, but that one is like the most simple dressing you can do. It's just 3 tablespoons of rice wine vinegar, 2 tablespoons of orange juice. It's so good. It's so good. And then there's 3-2-1 dressing. Everybody always wants to know about salad dressing. So 3-2-1 dressing is 3 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar, 2 tablespoons of Dijon mustard, 1 tablespoon of lemon juice, and also if your balsamic vinegar isn't very sweet, 1 tablespoon of maple syrup. So 3-2-1 or 3-2-1-1. But 3 tablespoons balsamic, 2 tablespoons Dijon, 1 tablespoon lemon juice, and optionally 1 tablespoon balsamic if your balsamic isn't really sweet. So, maple syrup. Maple syrup, thank you. Yeah, 3 tablespoons balsamic, 2 tablespoons Dijon, 1 tablespoon lemon juice, 1 tablespoon of optional maple syrup. Yes. Say again? Oh, the rice wine vinegar, 3 tablespoons rice wine vinegar, 2 tablespoons orange juice.
So I believe you can just Google 3-2-1 dressing and you'll come up with something. And there's also Jane's Dancing Dressing.
Jane's Dancing Dressing, yeah. So that's Jane Esselstyn's dressing recipe. Her husband is Caldwell Esselstyn, who was in the movie Forks Over Knives. He's the Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, yeah, from, what's the name of it? The Cleveland Clinic. He's with the Cleveland Clinic. So, anyway. Okay, last questions anybody has? This is our last time here, you guys. So sad. This has been so much fun. And I really, really, really have to especially thank our fabulous cooking team. Charlotte, wave your hands. Yay! So Charlotte and Susan and Janice, and then I think Karen, who's not here, but she's been helping y'all too. And then Zach over here, who's taking a picture. Zach in the yay! Zach has been very, very helpful. So yes, and then of course the whole team here at Fresh Anointing has been wonderful. So, but we've had such a good time.
Yeah, this has been a real treat to stick our necks out a little bit and come out feeling like we've made 50 or so friends. And we appreciate you guys and how y'all really engage with this. And it just feels that way, and I appreciate it.
Right. So stay in touch because I want to hear about your success stories. So my card's out there on the table, so you can just text me and tell me your success stories. I would love to hear how your A1C has come down, and how your blood pressure is coming down, and how your weight is coming down, and all that stuff.
C.M. Strickland at charter.net.
Well, and myself, I would rather you texted me. That's better. Just text me and say, hey, I met you at Fresh Anointing, and this is, I check my texts when I have, I have kids who were teenagers recently, so I text more often than I check my email. So, did you want to talk about your A1C? Yeah.
Oh.
We have a success story because she was late, so.
Okay. So, first of all, I just want to really just be so very thankful to our pastor. To have a pastor who loves us this much to want to see us healthy and well is such a blessing. Yes. So we really have to really thank God for them. But also, even doing this is my first time really fasting or going on this type for any length of time. I probably haven't done more than 3 days most times. But just to do this, my hemoglobin A1C before I started was 7.2. Since I've been on it, it's gone down to 5.9.
That's non-diabetic level. That's really good.
Yeah, it is. It's a huge drop. And so, I would just encourage you to stay the course. I mean, I feel better. I don't even miss the meat I thought that I would, but I don't. And I'm just so very thankful for this. I'm so very thankful for all of you and for you for being here and for this information. Thank you all so much.
You're welcome. Isn't that awesome?
So if it helps you put it in perspective, those of you who don't know hemoglobin A1Cs, you really want the A1C lower than 7 if you've got diabetes. A hemoglobin A1C higher than 6.5 is high enough to diagnose diabetes. Down lower than 5.8, you don't have diabetes at all. If you're down there without medicines, you can earn the diagnosis history of diabetes. You can put it in your past, and you're well on the way.
Yeah. Yay. That's awesome. That is fabulous. Fabulous. Any last questions? Nope.
Oh,
thank you,
Charlotte.
I think Charlotte has something.
Yes, I don't have a question, but I want to thank everyone who has participated with this portion of the 90-day reset. This will be continued. I told Carolyn last week it won't be the last time we see her. We're so grateful to you and your husband for investing in us, impartation that has occurred. Some things are taught and some things are caught. So we did a lot of catching over the last 4 weeks, and we're so grateful. And again, I say to Pastor and the pastoral staff, thank you for your support. Thank you for loving us with the love of Christ, that you are fulfilling 3 John 2, where God says, I would that you would prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. So we are going to stay the course. We were scheduled to start next Wednesday to continue with the psychological component of the mind-body connection that will help us to stay the course. We know that our minds need to be renewed in order for transformation to occur. There's a character in the book called Demas. I forget what book it's in, but many years ago I learned that Demas had starting power, but he did not have staying power. We don't want to be like Demas. Okay, we want to have staying power, and we want to stay the course, because all of this is so that we can fulfill the assignment that God has for each and every one of us here in the earth realm, to bring his kingdom to earth, and we have to be healthy in order to do that. Amen. So again, I want to say thank you to you guys. This is just a little card saying thank you. We so appreciate you and everything that you've done. And God bless you for all your giftings, your talents, your skill sets that you invest into the community, not just here at FAHOW, but you met Trey at Hyundai, and I guess you met him at Hyundai. You met Pastor at Kava. So these are community-based skill sets that they're investing, and so great is your reward. Great is your reward. And so we thank you again.
Thank you all for coming. We're going to miss being here, but you guys keep going. Keep going. Yeah, come on over. No, we're going to be at Green Papaya on Monday. Green Papaya. Yes, one more thing.
We're scheduled to be here next week, but I did get a text message that they may be doing baptismal service next Wednesday. So look at the website to see when it's going to be, whether we're going to be here next Wednesday or the following week. Check the website out. It's going to be by Dr. O, a psychiatrist/psychologist. He's very gifted, very talented, he has monumental information in that head of his. Amen. And so he's going to share with us as well. So check the website out because I just got a text. They're not sure yet. Hopefully they will know by tomorrow. But let's keep it rolling, okay?
Also on the website, if you're watching at home, you can actually still fill out the survey, and they're putting a link on the website, the FAHOW website, to be able to fill the link out, the survey out online following the link. So do that at home if you've been watching at home the whole time.
But that's the same survey we're showing up here, right?
Same survey. It's the exact same thing. It's just online, an online version following that, or you fill it out on paper if you'd rather do that. So.
Were there menu instructions for the synthetic cheese?
It's on our YouTube channel. So
synthetic. It's not fake cheese. It's real dip.
Our YouTube channel's the way to go.
It's on the YouTube channel. So yeah, the YouTube channel is Strickland's and Friends.
Yeah.
And if you just go to Strickland's and Friends, you should see this little green logo that looks like this. Let's see if I can find one of our. Here it is. This is one of our aprons. Oh, he's wearing one. Okay, so it says Strickland's and Friends, and there's this little green circle, and we have a whole bunch of YouTube videos on there, and one of them was the cheese dip, which I could not call Rotel dip because that's a brand name, and so I think we just call it something about spicy cheese-like dip. I don't know. Non-synthetic cheese dip. Non-fake food. It's real food. It just tastes like cheese. Yes, it's called cheese dip with tomatoes and spices. So that's it, because we couldn't use the word Rotel. And so, yeah, that's it. There's a short version of the video and there's a long version of the video. And if you click on the video and then down underneath the video where the information about the video is, it has the whole list of ingredients. It's under snacks. So we have playlists on our channel, and one of them is snacks. So you can go to snacks, and we have a whole bunch of videos on there, so we're starting to get more on there too. But you'll find the recipe, and we'll get you some because you missed it. So you're going to want some. It was really good. So yeah, it's like Rotel dip. I can't say that. It's not Rotel. It's not Rotel dip. Although I used Rotel tomatoes in it, so and it was pretty spicy, but it's good.
So I think we're down. Yeah, I think we're down to looking for an ending, and I think a really good ending would be: please look to your right, thank the person on your right, support them. Look to your left. Look, y'all are in it together. That's what's making this so beautiful.
Yes.
Get out of here and support each other. Keep each other going. All right. Thank you very, very much.
You can do it.